I think what you said about connection is really important, because it's not just the connection between the dancers, it's the way the dancers affect the people watching. And you are always transformed in your joy, in your mood, in your moment, watching salsa, because of the music, because of the dancers, because of the expressions, because of the flavor. Whereas at ballet, you're standing there, you're applauding. And jazz you appreciate, and modern you can appreciate, that there's something about salsa that is infectious, and the audience wants to participate.
Absolutely. And I think the true differentiating factor, if you look at Dancing with the Stars, ballet, jazz, modern, whatever it is the music. If you look at ballroom competitions, the music is generic. If you look at salsa, the music is what matters. People just hear a song and they say, wow, that's my favorite song, and they cannot stop moving. They have to go out there and dance. And people that don't even know. Yesterday we went to this little chocolate house. They're playing salsa in the background. People love it. They start moving even subconsciously. They're drawn to it. And if you actually go deeper into the music and you start listening to, let's say, Ismael Rivera, and you start listening to the stories in the 60s, 70s that worked against social injustice and the whole turmoil in New York City at the time, addressing the issues. When you listen to the song Negro Bembon and you listen to the lyrics, you think it's a fun song. It's one of the most important political songs of its time. So you have all these different layers of complexity to this music. The lyrics, where the music came from, the musicians, their background, which is, it needs to be kept alive. And certain people in the scene are doing that. We're just trying to contribute what we can with our mission to do that as well. And anybody that listens to salsa, once you're hooked, you can't get away from it.
No, you can't. I think back to what you were saying about standardizing the dance and understanding the language of the dance. If you can understand the language of the dance at whatever level, you can allow the music to puppeteer you through the expression of it. And there's nothing more freeing, which is why I think salsa is so infectious, than to be free on the dance floor, and then to take it to the next level and to be free on the stage.
There are two very interesting points you make. The first one is, when you go to Cache or Jimmy's or anything in New York and anything worldwide, you see people moving to a specific song in their specific way.
Yes.
So they express themselves through that song. And depending on how much technique they have more material. So you kind of think about it as, again, the language. You know 5 words, you can communicate with 5 words. So some have limited body movement, limited ability to do turn patterns, but they still love it. And others that learn more have a wider range of expression, ammunition on the dance floor to show the details of how they feel about this song. When we choreograph, one of the most important things for us is musicality. So it's because all of us are musicians. So we go back to the count sheets and go back to the sheet music, try to understand what the specific parts are that we want to highlight, that we think are important, the sounds. Slow them down, pack the thing full of movement, and then speed it back up. We sometimes, when we start with 50% speed, we think we can never get this choreography, and it takes us a long time to get it. But movement in that way is so incredibly important. And it's something that the more you learn, you really have this ammunition that you can bring out there on the dance floor. There was another point I thought was very profound that I wanted to make, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, let me try to refresh. You said something about when you listen to the music, you choreograph listening to the music, and I think that's the professional level of being on stage. You are deconstructing the music and creating a story based on your understanding and the musicality of it. And then there's being on the dance floor and having that ammunition so that you're choreographing from your spirit and your soul. And the horns and the clave are manipulating you in a way that it brings up this language that is just in your body. So I think that also is the separation between the social aspect of it and the standardized aspect of it.
and maybe also the aspect of other dance forms, because even socially, you see some social dancers out there, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And that's their way of expressing themselves. And then on stage, of course, there's a choreographed aspect to it. You're not free. You're free to do for our dancers what we tell them to do. But the choreographed aspect showcases that. The social dance floor really brings out who you are on a dance floor, and it's fine, whoever you are, to bring that out. Other music forms don't really bring that out because you don't have the same range of music. Salsa can make you laugh, cry, jump, meditate. And it is so diverse in terms of the musicians, because when you look at, and maybe that comes back to music and where it came from, if you think about salsa in Puerto Rico, it sounds very different than salsa in New York. Gran Combo sounds very different from Waygee. Oscar de Leon sounds very different. Venezuela, Puerto Rico, the different groups. Japan, you have Orquesta de la Luz. So you have interesting manifestations of salsa all over the world. Salsa has this one unique thing, is that you can bring everything in. It's inclusive. That's why we also try to call our company Baila Society. A society intrinsically is two things. It's either it can be very exclusive because it's a dedicated society, and that is our dancers who you want to be on stage. There's a rigid way of getting there, and that's an inclusive, exclusive thing. And then society in its broadest application is very inclusive. Anyone in society should be dancing. That's why Baila Society is about the imperative form of baila, dance. Do it. Don't worry about how it looks. Don't worry about how other people view you. Just worry about how you feel. Society is, everybody should be doing it. Oh, I had my profound point. I got it back. We did this Paris trip with the Ritz, There was, it's a little unfortunate now, I'm not going to mention any names, but it was a guy, a Lehman trader. It's not the best job to be in a couple of years later, but at the time working non-stop. But he managed to take that course with us. And he managed to go to France. Now, as part of that France trip, we ended up in the south of France, and one night went to San Remo, which is a little Italian beach village. The Italian Riviera. And it was the most beautiful setup you'll ever see, because they had a dance floor, there was a tent on top, and the loudspeaker system was in the tent in the roof, so you had the music coming down into the dance floor, which means you heard the music and felt the music on the dance floor, but immediately outside of the dance floor, it wasn't loud. So you had couches around all over the beach where people could just chill and have a drink. At the end of the night, it started out with the DJ playing for families, for old people. They were just having fun, popular salsa. At the end of the night, when we were about to pack up, he started playing the funkiest music ever. And we could not leave. We literally took our shoes off 3 or 4 times, back on, started dancing again. So I had this little camera. And I went like this around, I wanted to get the mood. It was 3 a.m., I was tired. So everybody was packing up. And there's this guy who just learned the basic. And I'm looking at him, feeling the music, standing there, and I think it's great. He doesn't know anything. And people are playing the cowbells, and they're jumping on stage, and they're playing, it was a really instrumental song, but very infectious. I'm going around, by the time my camera comes back to the stage, he is on the dance floor, throwing his hands up and moving his body in ways that you've never seen before. He had no knowledge other than 3 or 4 steps, but his body was moving in free ways, and he was unconcerned with. He was just by the beach, taking these couple of days off from his very stressful job, and all of a sudden he just exploded and moved. And I have that thing on video, and I think it's one of the most touching videos I've ever seen. And that tells you, even if you don't speak the language, in just a few words, you can just be out there and enjoy it.
And let your spirit soar.
Absolutely.